What's the worst racism you've ever faced? I work at a retail store as an ODP in a somewhat small town in Minnesota. I was about to finish my last order of the day. I was alone in an aisle when an elderly man approached me and said the following words. "What are you looking at? Piece of shit? I'm going to wipe out your race and the others." He took out a necklace whose meaning I'm not sure of, but he said it was a guarantee. I reported it, but nothing was done. I feel paranoid when I leave the house. When I asked for help from his family and friends, I received comments like, "This is America," or "That's the kind of person who would be my neighbor." To give some context, I am Mexican and have Caucasian features. I met my wife through a video game and waited almost 5 years to legally enter the United States. My wife's father has mentioned many times that he is racist. He makes comments like, "You should speak English. Only English is spoken here." He refers to people of color as people who smell bad, steal, and ask for a lot of government assistance. He talks to his sister and says, "You should be careful with black people." This while I see him using drugs and drinking every day. I try to improve my English daily. I know basic phrases and the products customers look for. I really try to help them. My wife tells me not to take the comments personally and that not all white people are bad, but sometimes I feel very uncomfortable stares towards me. In these first few months, I have had severe depression. Sometimes I see looks of rejection towards me and Somali people. I have seen how some people feel superior because they know English or make you feel dumb. When I experienced this, I sought therapy because I want to be strong for my wife, but honestly, sometimes I feel like my spirit is breaking. Canadian Sri Lankan Tamil here. Lived in a smaller town in Ontario, which was actually not malicious, just ignorant. Some of the kids would make fun of our names, things like how we couldn't eat meat on certain days, or my parents' and grandparents' accents. Did have a weird incident where some guy got mad at us sitting in the mall and said something like, "Even here can't escape the Indians." Moved to Scarborough, where Tamils in particular have a weird mix of stereotypes. We're stereotyped by some populations there as being weak, easy targets, smelly, stealing housing and jobs from them. But then also some people stereotype us as gang members, terrorists/war criminals, and big into identity theft and fraud. Admittedly, 1 in 3 are somewhat true. Though less common now, the Scarborough rowdy is based in some truth. Worst incident I had was riding the bus in Scarborough. This guy started yelling at me and my brother, saying Tamils ruin Scarborough. We can't fight one-on-one. He could box a Tamil any day. That he could end us if he wanted to. Funny thing is this grown man was yelling at 2 teenagers and later got off the bus, but not before saying we were lucky he didn't catch us out on the sidewalk. Used to get bullied by North Indians and Pakistanis for not knowing Hindi/Urdu, not knowing various songs or Bollywood stuff, but if that was racism or ignorance. Also, being dark even for a Tamil guy, I got comments for it from Desis, including other Tamils. Not sure if that's racism or just bullying. I went to school in a conservative pocket in the United States. Lots of casual comments like, "Your skin color is like poo," "Indian girls look like apes," and judgments that all I do is study and am obedient and am sheltered and have no life experience. And adults didn't care or seem to notice. They just seem to inhabit the same biases. Everyone talks at you or around you, but not to you. And I don't know if this falls under racism, but when I would cry about getting beaten at home, people would laugh and say that that's normal for my culture. It makes me wonder, why do people care when white kids get beaten, but not us? Are they more valuable, more human? Why do they get to have emotions and interiors, but not us? My mom has a dark complexion, but she literally grew up in USA, so her American accent is spot on. Once we were in the bus, and this older white lady's cane fell on the floor. My mom picked it up for her and said, "Here you go." The lady replies with, "I am so glad you know the common tongue. I'm tired of you people talking your language." Only racism I have encountered is from Easterns. First year college, Korean flatmate rudely told me to make sure when I cook, her room door should be closed cause she didn't want the smell to get into her clothes. Immediately put her on the toxic person list. Had a former Chinese acquaintance who used to make a lot of subtle racist comments. Despite being raised in America and having access to real data, she still thought the CCP was the greatest thing that ever happened to China. She was a dumb, but I stayed cause she fed me food. I have nothing against Eastern food. The way their food operates is similar to us in many ways. So not only was she a dumb, she was a hypocritical dumb. Result? I don't like them either at this point. I've experienced more systematic racism and microaggressions for most of my life. For context, I'm half Korean and half Southern/Eastern European. It didn't help that I lived in a predominantly white town for most of my life. Also for context, I was born in South Korea and lived there until I was 7, so Korean culture has a strong influence in my everyday life. For example, I got yelled at for correcting people on how to say my name, been told my lunch looks like vomit. I stopped bringing home lunches in 7th grade because of it, had doctors completely disregard me, and teachers who expected the world from me. You're Asian and Asians are smart, but thought I was less than everyone else. Not to mention all of the jokes I had to endure about Asian people when the virus first arrived in the U.S., where I live. The other thing I've faced a lot is people treating me like an exotic creature they saw at a zoo as opposed to a human being with feelings. Old people do this the most. In NYC, me and my family were waiting to be seated at Lobster House, and my mom was standing near the door. 2 big dudes entered the restaurant and accidentally bumped into her. They told her to move to the side, and because my mom doesn't speak English well, asked me what they had said in Spanish. Once they heard her speaking Spanish, one of them said, "Fking Latinos, learn to speak English," and left. I was 16 and afraid to speak up. I ended up not telling my mom what they had said because I didn't want her to get upset,